Well, it looks like everyone's favorite linebacker met with the Eagles' top brass today at the NFL Combine, but Philly reportedly met with another linebacker who isn't as well known, but might be even better. Also, Nick Sirianni received raving reviews from his players in the newly released NFLPA organizational rankings, but it was his response to Jalen Hurts' leadership drama that had me a lot more intrigued. And a report just dropped today on how many teams are calling Philadelphia about trading for Haason Reddick. Jeez, it's a lot. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Now listen, Roseman and Sirianni's press conferences yesterday left a little bit to be desired, but they did emphasize linebacker, specifically Howie Roseman. And of course, yesterday we mentioned that Clemson linebacker, we all love him, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., had a scheduled meeting with the Eagles this week at the Combine, and today that meeting not only occurred, but reportedly included both Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. And after the meeting, Trotter told the media just what it would mean for him to play for the same organization his dad played for all those years ago.
He's told me stories about, when he played for Eagles, I've been told different things, and like the great time he had with that organization. The Eagles, they're a great team, great club, and it'd be a blessing to be able to play for them as well. I'm just really just waiting for the opportunity to go wherever I go, and I'll be happy wherever I land.
It is worth mentioning that Trotter Jr. isn't the only linebacker the Eagles are meeting with today. They're doing their due diligence. They're not just going to take this guy because his dad played for Philadelphia. They also met with Texas A&M linebacker Edrin Cooper, who told the media that his meeting with Roseman and company went pretty well too.
It went extremely well. Great coaches in there. Just like I was saying with all the other coaches. Everybody's trying to get to know each other. To see the type of player I am. And just going from there.
I'm really leaning towards Philadelphia getting a linebacker in the draft. I think they're going to go secondary in free agency or via trade potentially. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think when it comes to linebacker, whether it's Trotter or Cooper or somebody else, you're going to see it come via the draft. I think one of those 2 second-round draft picks or maybe the later round draft picks as well could be an option for Philadelphia to grab a linebacker and pair him with Nakobe Dean and Zach Cunningham and just kind of see who rises to the top during training camp. Now, the other big news to come out today centers around, of course, cornerback JariusSneed, who we've talked about a lot, including on yesterday's show. You'll remember he's receiving calls, texts from Eagle players trying to recruit him to Philadelphia. Well, recruiting to Philadelphia, it just got a lot harder as reports surfaced today the Chiefs will franchise tag him, meaning he will not hit free agency as one of the top cornerbacks available. Now, of course, this doesn't mean they still can't acquire JariusSneed, nor does it mean the Chiefs want to actually keep him. Basically, reports came out today saying the Chiefs tagged him. That way they can focus all their resources and time on getting Chris Jones a brand new deal. Then they come back to Sneed, but they're still letting Sneed explore the trade market. And it's a pretty smart move overall because now, even if they lose Sneed, they're still going to get draft picks for him in compensation. And so, of course, if Howie wants to get a deal done for the star cornerback, you got to send draft picks first and then give him a brand new contract in order to make him both happy and available in Philadelphia, which, of course, isn't impossible. Like Howie's done this sort of thing many times in the past. But if they really want a cornerback, like I said yesterday, just go get Jalen Johnson. Save your draft picks for a safety or for a linebacker or for a pass rusher. Go get someone in the free agent market. There's no need to trade and then re-sign Sneed. This also sticks very well with the historic Howie Roseman moves. As you'll see here, he's signed or traded for 10 cornerbacks since 2010 and only drafted 2 cornerbacks in the first 2 rounds since 2003, and neither of those ones really worked out. Safe to say, if he's going to get a cornerback, it'll probably be either a trade or most likely a signing in free agency. Now, on a different note, every single year, the NFLPA gives out their team report cards where players can kind of grade each organization based on a ton of different categories like treatment of families, nutrition, training room, staff, a whole bunch more. Philadelphia, they had some pretty good scores. Like it's all A's and B's across the board, minus that 1 C with their treatment of families, although it's much better than a lot of other teams. I mean, the bottom scoring teams with F's and D's were the Commanders. How about the Chiefs and also the Pittsburgh Steelers? Most intriguing, though, is how the Eagle players viewed their head coach. They graded an A for Nick Sirianni, with 100% of Eagle players saying that Sirianni is efficient with their time and he's very willing to listen to them in the locker room. And on some of the smaller stuff, the Eagles got really great grades as well. They were first in food freshness, number 1 ranked head trainer, top 10 owner, nice weight room, cold plunges, travel accommodations, like all things were pretty darn good. And these are all things we don't really think about when it comes to free agents wanting to go to an organization that pays them well, but also has a really good facility and team culture. It's interesting that when players talk about Nick Sirianni, both to the NFLPA and to the media, they talk about him very highly. Remember Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey and their locker room clean-out interviews raved about Nick Sirianni, and yet when anonymous sources inside the Eagles locker room from media outlets like The Inquirer and WIP say Sirianni's the worst and he's terrible and he takes favorites and some players are treated differently. It's just weird how we're getting 2 different sides of the Nick Sirianni tree. Not to say that I'm sitting here going, okay, Nick Sirianni is the best coach in the NFL or he didn't have any problems from last year. not even close. I've been very critical of Nick Sirianni, but it is starting to get interesting that the media paints him in one light and the players paint him in another. For instance, one of the big criticisms of Sirianni, and of course his quarterback Jalen Hurts, is that the perceived leadership issues inside the locker room. Like with Jalen Hurts, there's this whole idea that he's not vocal enough, or he's not a very good leader, he's closed off. Well, yesterday during Sirianni's combine press conference, he was asked the question, he addressed the question. Take a listen.
You know, everybody, there's not a book that is written on this is how you lead, right? People lead in different ways. And one thing I learned early about in leadership is that you have to be yourself. And because if you lead and you're trying to be somebody you're not when you lead, then that gets seen through. I mean, that's just the same scenario I was put in, you know, when I became the head coach or an offensive coordinator or whatever it was. And everybody has to lead their way. And Jalen has special qualities that people will follow and people will want to follow. And he's got to do what he needs to do to lead in that way. And so some people's leadership style is loud and aggressive. Some people's leadership style is by example, and some is a mixture of both. And so Jalen needs to lead how he needs to lead, right? And AJ needs to lead how he needs to lead. And you know, whoever it is, you know, Slay's got to lead how he needs to lead, and because that's leadership, right? Is you know, being who you are and leading an example. At the end of the day, if you're leading by example, that's a great style of leadership. So Jalen needs to lead how he needs to lead, and I think he's done a great job of doing so. And he'll get, just like he has done in other things, he'll get better at, you know, that part of his game, and he'll get better at, just because I know that he'll continue to work on getting better at no matter what part of the game he needs to work at.
Now, I take that as sure. There have been some leadership problems with Jalen Hurts, and when we talk about problems, are they actually big problems? That's the key here. Is Jalen Hurts a bad leader, a bad teammate? Does he hate his teammates that aren't named A.J. Brown? I don't think so at all. I think Nick Sirianni kind of hinted at that without giving us the full picture and basically saying, like, hey, are there things to work on? Sure, but do leaders lead in different ways? Yes, some people are vocal, some people do it by example, some people are quieter, people are more in one-on-one settings versus overall team settings. Jalen's just a different guy. Doesn't mean he's perfect, doesn't mean he has anything to prove on. He has plenty of things to go ahead and improve on, but this whole narrative we keep getting week after week after week that Jalen Hurts has leadership issues, I think is very much overblown, which again shouldn't surprise anybody because of the sources that they're coming from. Now, of course, the biggest internal issue Philadelphia has right now in terms of free agents is what to do with star edge rusher Haason Reddick, who, of course, wants a new deal, but the Eagles don't want to give him the exact amount that he wants. Will he stay? Will he go? Well, Howie Roseman was asked about what will happen, his expectation for the edge rusher this season. Here's what he said.
Haason, obviously, unbelievable player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Local kid, great success story. Camden, Temple, Philly. Love having Haason. I think that, you know, anything that you're trying to do, you're trying to blend, obviously, what you're trying to do this year and how you're going to look in the future. And I think that's the hardest job. But certainly, you know, don't want to get into any specifics with any conversations with players, but have tremendous respect for the player and the person.
Now, that sounds like he wants to keep him, but not leave the door open to trade him as well, typical Howie. Although a new report this morning from Josina Anderson confirmed that multiple teams have expressed interest in trading for Haason Reddick. Now, this doesn't shock me. Like, obviously, teams would want a guy who's put up double-digit sacks in the last 4 seasons. I am surprised, though, that his market seemingly is this strong, despite turning 30 this year and wanting $25+ million a year. That's top 5 pass rusher money. I'm getting kind of C.J. Gardner-Johnson vibes from Haason Reddick, not the drama side of things, but the way his contract worked out, right? Gardner-Johnson wanted to be one of the highest paid safeties in the league. Philadelphia said, no, we'll pay you a fair team-friendly deal, and you can just come back to Philadelphia and keep winning with us, or you can test the open market, and C.J. gave him the middle finger and then went to the open market, but basically signed a very similar deal to what Philly was offering with the Detroit Lions. The Reddick thing seems very similar. Reddick wants more. The Eagles want to do a little more team-friendly, just due to the age and the cap restrictions that they have right now, and Reddick is going to go to the open market and try and find a trade partner. That's the problem, though, is he needs to find a trade partner. While several teams are interested, expressed interest, they obviously want to bring in the star pass rusher. Will they be willing to give up a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round draft pick and then give him $25 million a year? I'm still hesitant here, but I do think we are trending towards Reddick not being back with Philadelphia. Now, again, I don't want Reddick to leave. Like, replacing him is not easy. Replacing pass rushers is not easy, but I think the writing is on the wall. There are going to be some teams out there who have $70+ million in cap space who go, listen, we'll give you a third-round draft pick, and we'll pay him. It's just that simple. And if you're the Chicago Bears, with a lot of draft picks, and obviously a lot of cap space as well, it just makes too much sense not to go out and get Haason Reddick. Unless Reddick is such a Philadelphia homeboy, maybe he is, went to Temple, grew up around here, that he wants to stay in Philadelphia, that's your best chance at keeping him. But with money and draft picks aside, I think Reddick's probably going somewhere else. Now, we'll obviously cover that when and if that trade were to happen, and also the new league year. I mean, today's February 28th. We're a couple of weeks away from people being able to openly negotiate with free agents, make trades, re-sign people. It's going to get crazy. Buckle up for the month of March. Hit that sub button, follow along. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.